It's time for the Tony Lewis Show. Learn all about Jasper Wildcat football. This week's show is sponsored by Milligan Communications, Street Dreams, and the Southwestern Indiana Sports Network, powered by Milligan Brosmer Communications. Go Wildcats!
You dream it, we create it at Street Dreams. Custom paint, fabrication, stereos, wheels, tires, and more. We're also your authorized Sinister Sound dealer. Street Dreams, 317-624-1000, where you expect quality and get. You dream it, we create it at Street Dreams. Custom paint, fabrication, stereos, wheels, tires, and more. We're also your authorized Sinister Sound dealer. Street Dreams, 317-624-1000, where you expect quality and get.
And welcome to this week's Tony Lewis Show. And Coach, last week you took on the Evansville Memorial Tigers in sectional play and round two down at Evansville Bosse Field. And you came away, you lost 21-18. Why don't you recap that game for us?
Well, from the opening drive, we moved the ball down the field, and we've got it first and goal at the 15, and we're not able to punch it in with a touchdown, and that ended up, those were crucial 4 points. We settled for a field goal. Charlie Cabrick hit a field goal, so we go up 3-0. Then Memorial comes right back, and their tailback makes a nice run of probably about 30-some yards after they had driven it down the field a little bit to go up 7-3. Then it was kind of back and forth. We weren't able to move the ball in our second series. Actually, I take it back. Maybe that second series was the series where second or third series was where we had the fake punt at midfield. It was 4th and 5, I believe, at midfield, and we have been practicing this fake punt all year, and we're waiting for the time to use it, and it was successful and set up our next touchdown, which put us up 10-7 at halftime. Come out at halftime, and Memorial gets the ball, and within the first few plays runs a 91-yard jet sweep with Collins. We were out of position in a couple areas, and then the next series they score again on a long run by their tailback. So we gave up basically 3 long runs for their touchdowns. We get back in the game, score a touchdown, go for 2. Braylon Bear scores a touchdown, I believe, and then Charlie Cabrick scores the 2-point conversion, and that cuts it to 3. And then, unfortunately, our last 3 drives ended in a fumble inside their territory, I believe, probably around the 35. And then we, unfortunately, threw an interception probably around their 20 to 25-yard line. And then our defense made a huge stop, as we were talking about before we went on air, made a huge stop on 4th down to get the ball back. We weren't able to move the ball much and kicked a 35-yard field goal there at the end that was a little bit wide left. So tough loss, but the kids battled the entire game.
And I'll tell you what, I know that people of Jasper are probably disappointed, but as you say, and as your team lives, JAC, Jasper always can beat, and they did to the very end.
They did. Our kids fought till the very end. We made some plays on that last defensive stand. It was 4th and less than a yard. It was even 3rd and less than a yard. We make a big stop and bring up 4th down, and they go for it. It was 4th and probably 6 inches, and we made another big stop. Will Wallace made a big tackle to hold them, and we got the ball back. And unfortunately, again, we weren't able to move the ball offensively and weren't able to execute our field goal to put us into overtime. But we had opportunities before that. Their kids made some good plays. The interception was a really good play. And obviously the kid made a nice hit to cause a fumble on Braylon Stumble there. So their kids made plays when they had to, and that's why they're moving on.
And we'll be back on the Tony Lewis Show right after these messages from our sponsors. You're listening to the Southwest Indiana Sports Network, powered by Milligan Brosford Communications.
Want to know what I like best about playing basketball for my high school? I like it because it's a place where my friends get to see me play. I like it because I'm playing for someone besides myself. I'm playing for everybody in my school and every person in my community.
Indiana high school sports. They're more than just a game.
Come and see me play.
This is the most important, amazingest game ever played in the universe. The pitcher is fierce. Danny Roberts is up at bat. And the crowd goes wild. He just won the game. Let's go! Yes!
We protect the car you drive.
Go get him, Danny.
And the dreams that drive you. American Family Insurance. Insure carefully. Dream fearlessly.
And welcome back to the Tony Lewis Show. We're joined by WITZ Sports Director and Jasper Wildcat play-by-play man Chris Norton and WJTS Jasper Wildcat play-by-play man Craig Schneider and WJTS Jasper Wildcat color man Bob Welp. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Doing well.
Friday night was, actually, I didn't get to go to the game, but I got to listen to it. And I'll tell you what, the impression I got was that I know Coach Lewis likes to say JAC, Jasper always competes. I think they competed till the very end.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there, Joe. I mean, my gosh, it was one of those ball games where, especially starting that second half where Memorial had their two quick scores and, jumped out ahead 21 to 10 at that point. But it's like, again, Jasper did not give up on that football game, and obviously for something that went down to the wire where the field goal would have put it into overtime. But, what a wild finish, really, when you think about especially I think we had, 4 different possessions in, the last 4 minutes or so of the game. But, quite a competitive game, and if you're just a casual fan watching it, I'm sure you enjoyed it.
I 100% agree. The 2 quick scores, the first play from scrimmage coming out of the halftime break, 71 yards, then 90 yards. But like you said, they also had their chances in the end. They had drives that ended with a fumble at the 50-yard line, the interception deep in opposing territory. And then at the very end, Memorial tried to ice the game away, couldn't come up with it 4th and 6 inches. Jasper's got a chance. They drained that last minute. It didn't really look like themselves. I don't think they were really able to draw up what they wanted, kind of got out of their rhythm. Then you got a penalty that backs you up, and you missed the field goal, which we hadn't seen too many field goals. Was a little surprised that they went with Kabrick that early in a game, but he was able to make that one. Thought that gave them a good chance, but they had their chances, just came up short.
Well, as Craig alluded to after the game, Jasper really hasn't been faced with a 2-minute drill through the whole season. Either we were out of the game in the bad way or we were out of the game in the positive way, having a big lead. The whole thing at the very end, Grant Young throwing the interception at the end, it is just your typical senior, very confident in himself, trying to do a little bit too much. But the 4th down and inches, especially when they have the D1 offensive lineman, big old number 78 coming in at 285 pounds, and Jasper stopping them. If there was any play in the game that I would have guessed Memorial would have been successful on, it was that one. But Jasper came up, they stood it, they had their chance at the end, and like Chris alluded to, it's not been a big thing when it came to Jasper as far as kicking extra points or kicking field goals. It's just not really been in our repertoire.
But I got to ask you guys one question, though. You 3 were at the game when Memorial had the ball late and went for it on 4th down. Did it kind of shock you to see how Jasper didn't have any timeouts and Memorial had a lead?
I was just going to say, obviously it did shock you, but like you just said, you think 4th and 6 inches, run it right up the gut. It had been working most of the night. Don't see any reason why it wouldn't. Jasper hadn't done anything too special defensively, but they came up with that one stop. If you get the 6 inches, the game is over. No questions about it. Don't have to punt it away. Don't have to worry about it. That part I get. It's so deep in your own territory. a minute left, knowing that the kicker has made a 30-plus yard field goal earlier in the game. That was the shocking part about it. It seemed like it was a bigger percentage chance that you would get the stop and do something with it versus kicking it away and giving the ball back to the Jasper offense. Like, as previously stated, the Wildcats have not had that 2-minute drill, much less with Grant Young in the offense. He's coming back in with one half of football played since early August. It would have been tough to string a drive like that together.
Yeah. I'm not surprised they went for it because I think most coaches have that competitive juice and you have confidence in your team and all that. But yeah, when you stop and think about it, it's like, you punt that ball away and then Jasper's got a much longer field to work with. That pretty well would seal the game too. But yeah, I think that just sometimes you're just running on a little more of emotion than logic in that situation. And I think that was kind of the case. And so we made the stop and it was great at the moment, but unfortunately just couldn't pop that field goal.
Yeah, I think it all boiled down to when you've got the interior line that Memorial has, Coach Hurley's got to be sitting there going, if we cannot get a 4th down in inches, regardless of whether the ball is located on the field, we don't deserve to win this game. Now, you have talked about the timeouts. One of the timeouts that Jasper had to burn, Memorial sent 3 receivers to the far side of the field, and we had 2 defenders. And Coach Lewis had to run up there and call timeout. We've caught ourselves in that situation a couple of times, but you could have looked at it either way. But as far as Memorial goes, it worked out in their favor, so there is no second guessing.
One thing, talk about that, Bob. I remember one time they ran that, and they had like 3 wide receivers out there, and I think we only had 2 guys picking them up as well. But it's like they still stuck with like their bubble screen. It's like, do you not have a check down play or something where it's like, hey, let's try to get somebody to, go long in that situation. But yeah, again, that's just me thinking with a quarterback mindset.
I've got to believe that this is the first time, at least in my lifetime, that Pike Central's ever been in the championship game.
And the next question I have is I know early in the season we had this problem, and we had 3 scooping scores against us. Have you guys ever seen 3 of them in one season?
No.
I don't think so, and hopefully we won't again, right?
Absolutely. I agree with you. It was, Craig and I were talking about Holsworth and his issues at the beginning of the season and how much he's grown after the season and learning to put both hands on the ball when he comes through. So I think the coaching staff this year did an outstanding job with inexperienced players in key moments, teaching them, coaching them, chewing on them a little bit to make the changes so this would not reoccur towards the end of the season. And Craig said before in our pregame, when you came to Memorial and it came to Jasper in this championship game, they were both 2 totally different teams.
Mm-hmm. A night and day difference, and especially if you fast forward from that week 1 24-point victory, even to the Harrison game, everything that happens there, a lot like this game, you gave up 2 long plays, only this time in the 4th quarter. You're looking at 1 and 2. You've got a fullback as your quarterback, a freshman on the way. If you would have told me that they would end the season 6-3, buy in the first-round playoffs, and have a realistic shot at the sectional championship, again, I would have probably bet against it, but things were able to come back in the right direction. So I think taking a look at the season on the whole, not all negative, but still left, that little bit to be desired, I think.
Okay, now my next question I have is, this season's over. We've got next season to look forward to, and I'm sure people are already counting down the days. Who are some of the players that you guys see being leaders on the team next year?
Well, I think it all starts with the quarterback position. Again, if you pretty well look at it, that Max Butel is going to be the guy since he, played over A.J. Holzman in that situation where they had to choose 2. But, what a situation, though, to have the experience he did and win in those 3 games during that stretch before Grant was able to come and Ben Sims. But, I think that it starts with him. He played extremely poised. Hopefully he gets some more size on him because he's 5'7", 135 according to the roster. But if he can really just get a little bit more size on him and just get in the weight room, gain a little bit more weight and all that, because that was the one thing that I noticed once we got Grant Young back. Boy, it was that third option more, because Max Butel, just if he tried to run between the tackles, he was going nowhere. But when Grant Young, you saw it the other night, it's like the play's designed for him to run between the tackles, and, he could turn it all into a 19-yard run at any time. So, obviously we're going to get Carter Holsworth back. A lot of guys in the offensive line, too. Carson Kelly's Jr., Arnold's a sophomore, Hiles a junior, Bowers junior, we lose him, and Jesse Eulor is a sophomore. So, again, that offensive line is going to be key, and, of course, that means everything when it comes to Jasper football, because we're going to run the ball probably 75% of the time.
Expanding that into the backfield, too, the connection between Jesse Eulor at center, Max Butel at quarterback, but then Ross Dawkins, Elliott Smith, who had both spent a decent amount of time at both slot positions. They're coming back with a solid amount of reps, both on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. So you're looking at guys, maybe two-way starters for the next 3 years.
Right.
Yeah, the thing that concerns me so much, since they've already talked about the key players, and I agree with them 100%, the thing that concerns me the most next year is when we get into our defensive backfield, because you got Atkins, you had Bear, key players, seniors.
Well,
but then I'm sorry?
Atkins is a junior, but...
Oh, that makes me feel better. It really does. But if you look at Wrights and you look at Memorial's quarterback's a sophomore, the running back's a junior, Wrights is only losing one receiver. Mater Dei's losing quite a bit, but that passing attack's going to come right back at us. But I'm with Greg, with that offensive line coming back, controlling the ball and controlling the time of possession, we should be in pretty decent shape.
You're listening to the Tony Lewis Show on the Southwest Indiana Sports Network, powered by Milligan Brosmer Communications. We'll be back right after these messages from our sponsors.
When you think sporting goods, think no further than All Star Sports in Ferdinand. Custom embroidery, screen printing, team uniforms, sports equipment, and sports apparel and shoes. We have it all. Give Brad a call today at 812-367-1618 or visit them in the Country Plaza Shopping Center in Ferdinand. All Star Sports is open Monday through Friday 10 to 7 and Saturday 9 to 4. All Star Sports, when you're thinking sporting goods.
This is your IHSAA. This is your state. This is your high school. This is your athletic association.
Fans, I'm IHSA Commissioner Paul Knighty, and we're here to make sure that all of this remains yours.
This is your state. This is your community. This is your IHSAA.
And welcome back to the Tony Lewis Show. And Coach, I'll tell you what, no one likes to see the season lose, especially because it's your last chance to coach these seniors, and you had a fine group of 14 seniors.
We did. A lot. That senior group was very resilient. Yesterday we turned in our equipment. It's the worst Monday of the year, and as we talked to our kids, we tried to stress the positives. This group of seniors won one game as a freshman football team, and to win six games after starting 2-3 shows their resilience. And we were not easy on them, and they could have splintered and gone different ways in terms of as a team. But they stuck together, and it was a very resilient group, so we really appreciate that as a staff.
And let me mention each senior, and maybe you can give a brief, just whatever comes to mind when I say that name, okay?
Sure.
Braylon Bear.
Braylon made a lot of plays for us this year, and unfortunately he was injured 2 to 3 games this year, which hurt us a little bit, but on both sides of the ball and in special teams he was valuable.
Corbin Begley.
Corbin came out for the first time this year. He had come out last year just in the summer a little bit, but came out and gave us actually some quality depth at corner and wide receiver, and did a good job his first year out.
Jackson Bauer.
Jackson Bauer was one of our senior captains, played offensive tackle for us, and was one of our vocal leaders.
Drew Bradley.
Drew Bradley, obviously, is a heck of a baseball player for our baseball team and came out for the first time probably since middle school and played a valuable role for us as a linebacker and a tight end.
Mateo Hernandez.
Mateo this year was a backup guard and backup tackle and did a good job in those two roles.
Cameron Howard.
Cameron Howard was a tight end for us. Started at tight end in our double tight set and also played some linebacker and defensive end.
Charlie Cabrick.
Charlie Cabrick, one of our senior captains, had another heck of a year punting, was a wide receiver for us, also ran the ball for us at slot, and was a strong safety, and then we moved him to free safety later in the year, and he did a nice job there.
Logan Mundy.
Logan Mundy, one of the best kids, if you're picking a kid that you want to marry your daughter, he's the one. Great kid, great attitude, great work ethic. He was a backup tackle for us this year and did a really nice job.
Jace Perkins.
Jace came back to us. He was originally a Jasper kid and then moved to Washington and came back this year and did a really nice job. He and Carter Holsworth provided the carries from the fullback position this year.
Victor Peter.
Victor Peter was a starting strong safety for us, played a lot of special teams, and made some really big plays for us this year.
Caleb Seninger.
Caleb Seninger is another senior that came out, hadn't played since middle school, and probably was our most valuable defensive lineman this year. Did a great job at defensive end for us and played some special teams as well.
Dane Smith.
Dane was a backup guard, and, the kids would tell you probably Dane kind of gives the team the comedy relief that they need sometimes.
Jacob Weinzapfel.
Jacob, just a great kid. I'd compare him a lot to Logan Mundy. Worked his butt off to become a starting linebacker for us this year.
And last but not least, Grant Young.
Grant Young, another young man that was a captain for us this year, unfortunately had an ankle injury after the opening game against Memorial. Tried to come back against Wrights and re-injured it. Was out until our final home game against Vincennes. And obviously, when he came in, he gave our whole team an emotional lift. Played a heck of a first half, and to the point that we could bring him out in the second half, and then played well in the playoff game. We just are very saddened that he wasn't able to play his whole senior year because of that injury.
And, Coach, listening to these 14 seniors, you talked about them, I think that, and knowing how their freshman season started out, I think JAC defines these guys.
Oh, absolutely. After going one win in the freshman season and to have 6 and have the opportunity, obviously last week it was a woulda, shoulda, coulda type game, to have the opportunity to be able to play in the sectional championship minus a few plays. This group's come a very long way. Very proud of them.
Well, Coach, good luck this offseason, and as I always tell coaches, stronger, bigger, faster.
That's right. You have a great weekend, and go Wildcats.
You've been listening to the Tony Lewis Show on the Southwest Indiana Sports Network, powered by Milligan Brosper Communications. We'll see you next year. You have been listening to the Tony Lewis Show. Join us every week to learn more about Jasper Wildcat football. This week's show is brought to you by Milligan Communications, Street Dreams, and the Southwestern Indiana Sports Network, powered by Milligan Brosmer Communications. See you next week.